So in SQL Server, we have three types of major backups. Those are full and differential and transactional log backup. So if you take the database full backup, so it backup all the contents from database files and a portion, active portion of transaction log file. So database files includes primary data files and secondary files residing in multiple file groups, and the active content in the transaction log file. So coming to the second one, the differential backup. A differential backup is backs up the changes that happen after the previous full backup. So that means, so if any modification happen in the database after the previous database full backup, those changes will be backed up in the differential backup. So the third one is transactional log backup. The transactional log backup backs up the active content, the active portion from transaction log file. So the transaction log backup is supported in few of the recovery models. So hope you remember while we are discussing about the recovery models, uh, uh, the data can be backed up only if the data is available in the transaction log file. So we have three kinds of recovery models. Those are full, simple, and bulk logged. If you see full and bulk log recovery model, all the transactions will be logged in the transaction log file, and it will remain in the transaction log file until user manually truncate it. Since the data is present, we can able to take the transaction log backup. Whereas in the simple recovery model, the transactions will be logged in a transaction log file to obey write ahead logging protocol. Once the transaction is complete, that details, that transaction details or lesson details will be truncated from transaction log file. Since the data is not available in transaction log file, we cannot take transaction log backup if the database is in simple recovery model. So hence the transaction log backup is possible only if the database is in full or bulk log recovery model. So full and differential backup is possible for any recovery model. We will see. Let me launch a SQL Server Management Studio, new query analyzer. Right click on any database. So this is a test database I have created. The database name, the database is 10 MB. The files, corresponding files are available. Backup database, name of the database, okay, to which location we need to backup. So for full and differential, the extension would be .bak. For transactional log backup, the extension would be .trn. So for in SQL Server, it will allow any kind of extension. It's not mandatory that we need to give .bak, .trn, .mdf, .ldf. So SQL Server will allow any kind of extension, but for the naming convention, MDF for data, NDF for secondary data files, LDF for log files, .bak for differential and full backups, .trn will use for transaction log files, transaction log backups for the naming convention for easy understanding. Now I need to specify the location of the backup file. So here I'll create a location. So to which location we are taking? In SQL Server we have two options to take the database backup. Those are disk or tape. Tape is a storage media which is available in the network. Uh, to keep it is a third party location, so where we can use as a storage. It will be in a network share. Okay, I have given a folder location. Disk is equal. Okay, now I need to specify the file name. Now I have given the location for my backup. Now I need to specify the backup file name. So as a best practice, if someone sees the backup file, they should be able to recognize what that file is. For that easy understanding, as a best practice, we give database name and timestamp. See, this is the typical syntax for database backup. So what we are doing, backup, we are specifying backup. Where we are taking the database backup. For which database, specify the database. To which location we are taking to the disk for the location, and specify the file name. If you don't specify any of the option, by default it will take full backup. So on top of that, database backup have few of the additional options. Those are, if you already have a backup set, you can append to the existing media. So if you want to track the status, status, so you can use those parameters on top of your backup syntax. So let me go ahead and execute this. So when you run a backup, what will happen in SQL Server? So first, SQL Server keeps a database level shared lock, so that few of the operations will be restricted on a database level. Those are, when the full backup is running, you cannot do any database structure level changes. Those are renaming a database, adding a database files. Okay, and a database level changes are restricted. So first it will keep a shade lock on the database, and then it issues a checkpoint, so that all the dirty pages will be written into the disk. And then, so after issuing a checkpoint, it will take the LSN, starting LSN. Okay, those entries will be marked in MSDB backup set table, and then it will start backing up all the pages from database files. Once the database files complete, it will back up based on the information from the transaction log file. The corresponding pages will be backed up. So once the active content from the transaction log file is backed up, it will mark the last LSN number and the timestamp for the backup, and it will mark it as a complete. So I am past it. I am going to execute it. So when I execute it, it says 664 pages for database name for data file. Similarly, 2 pages for the database name for the file log file. Clear? So it backed up the data file pages, and then based on the details from the transaction log file, the corresponding pages from the data file, it has been backed up. So that means while we are performing the full backup, so if the user tries to do the modification in the database, those modifications also will get backed up. If If they are, if the modifications before the backup completion, those modifications also will get backed up in our full database backup. Now we will see in a GUI navigation. So I am choosing the second database, that is lab database one. Right click on a database, go to task, select the backup. So as soon as you select, it is asking for the source. In the source tab, you will have a database name. Choose the database name to backup. And if the database, see here, you can option, you can see the recovery model. So when we are demonstrating the transaction log backup, this recovery model will be helpful. Next, backup type. What kind of backup you are taking? Full backup or differential backup or transaction log backup? I'm selecting the full database backup. So here, this is one of the option, copy only backup we will discuss. And we are taking complete database backup or file group. So we are not taking the partial backup. I'm taking the complete database backup. And backup set, where a name has been given to the backup set. So here, the destination, either disk or tape. So currently tape third party shared storage is not assigned to the disk, assigned to the computer, so this option is not highlighted. Currently it is going to the disk location. If you observe here, by default it is referring to some other location. Deprogram files, database backup. So how it is coming? So yesterday when while we are taking for this backup set, for this backup set, the backup has been placed in this location. If you see here, yesterday's differential backup we have placed here. So that means, so for this backup set, the database backup has been taken in this location. If I use the same backup set, it I need to choose any one of the option. So if I use the same backup media set, I have to either append or else I have to override the existing backup media. Okay, so now I always take new backup set, full DB backup, and I will remove the backup file and I will choose the new location. So the location for the backup and file name. See here .bak I am specifying since this is a full backup. So I have selected the database name, type of the backup, and backup set I have given, and here the location disk for the destination of the backup file. So these options I am appending to the existing backup set. If it is backup set is available, it will append to the existing one. Here choose here set backup compression. Use the default server setting. So we will discuss this next. I am clicking on OK. So if I click on OK, backup percentage, here it is showing once it is 100% is complete, backup database is completed successfully. Okay, so from GUI I can take the database backup either by using TSQL. You can do the same operation. So first we will go and see our backup set table. So backup set table will be available MSDB database, that is a system object. See, so backup related details will be saved in this system tables. So backup set unique identifier, a backup UID will be given, who has taken the backup, from which user, and what kind of backup it is. That is the name of the backup set. This is what I was discussing. First LSN, what is the LSN in your transaction log file? What is the last LSN in your transaction log file? And checkpoint, in which stage a checkpoint has been occurred. So before it start taking the backup, actually it issue a checkpoint, and then it will take the first LSN details. So why it has to take the first LSN? From at the time of full backup, what is the LSN number is there, from that LSN number till last LSN number. So it will not truncate, it will keep it active, because my full backup is currently running. After that, this first LSN to last LSN, these details also need to backed up. While backing up, the operations has been taken to the taken in the database. That's why those operations also needs to be backed up. That's the reason it will keep track of first LSN and last LSN. That is a nothing but a active content in the transaction log file. Based on these LSN details, the actual content from the database pages is get backed up. So backup start date, finish date. Here if you see here, type D. D indicates full backup. I indicates incremental backup, that is differential backup. Differential backup also called as incremental backup. If the type is L, that is log backup. And the compatibility level, so 100 stands for SQL Server 2008. And what is the database size? It is in bytes. This is divided by 1024. It's almost 1 MB, 1.4. Okay. Yeah. KB MB, we converted into by MBs. So backup size is 5 MB. Similarly, the other one is 1455104. It is around 1.4 MB. So the recovery model, it log the recovery model. This one we will see when we are discussing about the bulk log recovery model. Whenever a bulk operation happens, database keep tracks of those bulk operations, that is BCM, bulk change mapper, bulk check mapper. So if it is any bulk data has been loaded, it will keep track of that information. And the other one is here copy only. See, compressed backup, is it a compressed backup or not? So that is one of the feature that is available in SQL Server 2008. Differential base LSN. So what is the LSN number when we take the differential backup? Okay, differential base LSN number. That means what was my base for differential backup. So the differential backup, it backs up the changes that happen from the previous full backup. So if you see here, this would be base. That means last LSN of previous full backup 1600135 1600135. So database checkpoint LSN 1600135. So same, it is referring the same LSN number. Okay. Let us move on to the next backup, that is the differential backup. Differential backup backs up the changes that happen from the previous full backup. Now in our database, if any changes happen, so let me, now I have 12 records, right? What I am doing, I am creating a another table, duplicate of the table 1. So by using a simple syntax, select a star into second name from first table name. That means the content from source table will be moved into second table. If the table doesn't exist, it will create and it will load the data. DBO student. So since I am executing this in master, it should be database name. To avoid that, I should always use database name dot schema name dot object name. 12 rows affected. If I check the content in student to data, okay. So now from the previous full backup, I have only one table. Now after the full backup, so I have data added into my database. Okay, so it's recommended to take the database backup periodically depending upon the data and the database. So if I take a differential backup, what will happen? It backups only the changes that happen after the full backup. It will not again start taking the entire database. Okay, yesterday we discussed, right? Let us say my database is initially it's of 100 GB. So in 100 GB, if I take the full backup, the entire content will be backed up. So next day, if I take entire database backup, again it will back up the entire content in the database. For that, I need to I need to have enough room in the disk, right? To take the backup, I need to have free space on my disk. And second thing is that it will take time to complete 100 GB. It will take the minimum. Let's say it's depending upon the server configuration. Let us say it takes 2 hours. So every day, 2 hours I am spending in the backup rather than taking the full backup every time. If I take only the changes that happen in the database so that I can have accurate data, if something goes wrong, I could be able to uh, recover the database. So in second day, if I do the changes that happen, that means the existing data plus the new edition of the data. This is called backing up. The differential backup backs up the changes that happen from the previous full backup. It keeps a mark of the existing full backup, and what are the changes that happen after the full backup, it will keeps backup. So for that, DCM, differential change mapper, a parity in a that is a page. So that parity will be updated to 1 whenever a page is modified in a extent. So after the full backup, let us say I have 10 pages, so 10 extents. So out of 10 extents, 3 extents are got modified after a full database backup. So when I take the differential backup, only those 3 extents related pages will be backed up in a differential database backup. For differential database backup, in GUI, right click on a database, go to task, database backup, select the type as database, and the type is select differential. For differential backup, again similar to full backup, you need to specify a backup set name and location for your database backup. So after location, give the file name for your database backup database. Now this differential backup contains the changes that happen after the full backup. So in our example, so first when I take the database backup, this database have only one table. So after that I added one more table and I added 12 records to it. So now when I take the differential backup, ideally you should have the content of the newly added table and the 12 records. So differential backup is complete. Now I am adding one more table, table number 3, again populating with data. So 12 records affected. That means I created another table, and in that there are 12 records in the third table. This time what I will do, I will try with query analyzer. For that, syntax is backup. So on a database we are taking backup database, the name of the database, that is database name. Similarly, to which location we are taking, to disk, location of the disk, in a single quotation specify backup, and then what is the file name, specify the file name for your differential backup, differential underscore 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. Okay, so if I don't specify any option, if you observe this syntax, both are same. If I don't specify anything, by default it will take the full backup. So now I am trying to take the differential backup, so I need to specify a option to my database backup, that is with diffferentia. Differential is the keyword in SQL Server. We are specifying with the differential. And if you want to use any option while taking the backup, just use the comma and you specify the option. You need not to use with multiple times with the differential, like so stars stars is equal to, that means whenever the 2% is complete, it will log the message, and also with override. So you can specify those options. You need not to give with multiple times. With is the keyword, that is that can be for one with should be fine for entire backup syntax. So database backup, I have specified the differential backup. Okay, now I'm executing. I'm clicking on F5. See if you see here, since I specified the stats, it has given the entries for the entries of our backup progression. 100% is complete for the database. So how many it completed? It database data file completed, data it backed up the changes that happen in the database. Database means the changes that happen in the extent related pages and the active content in the transaction log file. Okay, backup database with differential successfully processed with 99 pages in time. If you see your backup set table, MSDB backup set table, the latest one is 10th one is about our differential backup. We can see our incremental backup. I stands for incremental. Okay, now question. So when I take the previous differential backup, ideally in our example, I have taken a full backup. This full backup have table 1. After that I have taken a full backup, right? After that I added table 2 plus 12 records, and then I have taken differential backup. Now again I have added table 3 plus 12 records, and again I have taken differential backup. So the latest differential backup ideally should contain what information? Pooja or Ashwita, any comments? So the latest differential backup. So this differential backup ideally should contain what information?
Twenty-four records.
Yes, correct. So the latest differential backup will contain the changes that happen from previous full backup. That means, so table 2 with the 12 records, and then table 3 with 12 records. So if I take one more differential backup, it backs up from the changes that happen from latest full backup to the time which we are taking the differential backup. Clear? Here if you see this differential data, again here backing up. If you take it, this differential backup contains only table 2 plus 12 records, whereas here if you take the same content is getting added. So what it means, the date that in the differential backup you may have duplication of the data. Fine. So now depending upon your requirement and data criticality, you can schedule full backup or differential backup in your database. Now the third one is transaction log backup. So transaction log backup backs up the active content from the transaction log file, and it will truncate the transaction log file if you don't specify any option. So this transaction log backup is possible for only two recovery models. Those are full and bulk log recovery models. Right click on your database, go to task, backup. Here we select the database name and the third type of backup, that is transaction log backup. Okay, so you selected the transaction log backup, give the backup set name, and then specify a location for your remove the existing file which was used in the previous backup set, and specify a new location for your transaction log file. Transaction 1. So for transaction, depending upon the frequency, you can keep a timestamp. Okay, so transaction 1 dot trn. For transaction, I'm keeping a dot trn. So backup database. So what kind of backup I am taking? Transaction log backup. We will see the TSQL. Okay, so similar these the options would be same for transaction log backup. Here you will have truncate the transaction log file, backup the tail of the log, and leave the database in restoring state. So if you take a transaction log backup, what will happen? It backs up the active content from the transaction log backup. By default it will truncate the transaction log file. Okay, so before that we'll see couple more things from transaction log backup. See my transaction log file, it is in D program files. The transaction log file will not have any file groups, and initial size is this, and it is currently set to maximum value. Growth is 10% log only. If I want to check the current usage of transaction log file by using dbcc of log space. dbcc SQL perf of log space. This is the system dbcc command, database consistency command. By using this you can check the current log file utilization. So here my database is maximum value is mentioned as a default value, that is 2 terabyte. In that, based on the auto growth, it is growing. Even though the database is growing, what is the actual current utilization of your transaction log file? Here if you see, so till now my database used 63%. Out of 63, see in that, what is my current database utilization is 0.9, that is 63%. So if you see here, database min and max, here the minimum value is 1024. Out of 1024, it not completely utilized. Once it is completely utilized, based on the auto growth, so it new value will be assigned, either percentage or value. So if you see here, dbcc log space, what is showing here, out of the current value, that is current value, only 0.99% is utilized. And one more thing is, one more query, p underscore log info database sp underscore log info dbcc log info. See, if you see here, dbcc log info, this query gives the active portion of your transaction log file. Here if you see the parity, the status 2 and 0, 2 indicates it is active, 0 indicates it is inactive. So in the transaction log file, that what it will do, inside the transaction log file, it will be divided into multiple small files. Those are called virtual logs. So database, it will not at a time grow. So it will grow in the in the form of small chunks. Those are called virtual logs. So those virtual logs, once the virtual log is full, new one virtual log will be created in a within the database. So that is the internal architecture. So whether the VLF is active or not, 0 means the VLF is not active, that can be reused. 2 means the VLF is active, virtual log file. So whenever we say here in the transaction log backup, truncate, truncate the transaction log file. So what it will do, it will back up the active content from the transaction log file and truncate. Truncate means it will remove the data from transaction log file. So what it will do, initially it will not completely remove and release the space to the operating system or disk. What it will do, it will mark that file for reuse. Whenever you require, you can reuse the file. So with the status, if the status marks for 0, that means the virtual log file in the transaction log file is marked as reuse, that is empty. That can be either shrink and release, you have by, if you shrink, auto shrink is one of the database option. If you keep the database option enabled, it will always run in the backend and it will release the unused space. Okay, similarly, if the portion status is 0, that means the virtual log files are marked for reuse. Either you can reuse them, or else if you want, you can shrink and release that unused space to the operating system. Okay, so by default it will be truncate the transaction log file. So let us go ahead and take the transaction log backup. Transaction log backup completed successfully. So if you see the tlog uh, transaction log backup command prompt syntax, see, backup log. So for the differential and full backup, we used backup database name, whereas coming to the transaction log backup, here we used backup. What kind of backup we are taking? Log backup. For which database name, to the disk name, and backup file we specified, fine, with format, with the keywords options we have specified. existing uh, backup media we are overwriting or we are appending, and backup media name and with stats. Okay, these are the options to your transaction log file. So the typical syntax would be backup log database name to location and the file of your transaction log file. If you run this command, what it will do, it will back up the active content from your transaction log file and truncate. Main thing is by default database transaction log backup will truncate the active content in, it backs up the active content in the transaction log backup and then it will truncate the log file. So if you don't want to truncate, just want to have a backup, you can use no truncate. If you use with no truncate, it will just back up the active content from your transaction log file. But if the database is in simple and full recovery, full and bulk log recovery model, all the transactions will be logged in a transaction log file, and it will not automatically truncate, so the utilization of log file will be more. So some point of time the log file full, so user has to manually truncate it. So for that, to free up the transaction log file, you need to take a transaction log backup regularly. Transaction log backup based on the content from the log file, it will back up the corresponding pages from database. So let me keep it as a 2. Now if I use with no truncate, it will not truncate. Just it's a process 0 pages for the database name for log file. Based on this log file, if you see, if you still remember the full database backup and the differential backup, you started backing up the content from your database files pages, right? And then it backed up the active content in the transaction log file. Whereas in the transaction log backup, it only backed up the active content in the transaction log file and its corresponding pages from disk. So that's the reason it backed up the pages. So if you use no truncate, that is called, one more option is tail log backup. Tail log backup, what it will do, it will take the active portion of the transaction log backup, and we can have an option to bring the databases in restoring mode. So that one we will discuss when we are in a restoring modes, recovery, with no recovery, and standby. So in full differential transaction, so we do have few of more uh, options. Those are, so apart from database backup, in the database we have full differential and a transaction log backup. So apart from database backup, you still have a option to take one or more files from your database. Those are called partial database backup. If you right click on your database, you have option here, backup, here database, file or file group. If you specify a file or file group, it asks which file you want to specify, which file group. Only corresponding a partial of your database can be backed up. A group of files or group of file groups can be backed up by using option. And so the other option, the other important thing is copy only backup. Copy only. So copy only is one of the feature that available in the SQL Server. The importance of this copy only backup. So any guess what is the importance of copy only backup? It is similar to, it is applicable to your full database backup. So it is nothing but a your full database backup. There is one slight change in if the database backed up by using copy only and without copy only. Any guess? D stands for full backup, I stands for incremental backup, that is differential backup. So for my database, let us say my backup strategy is uh, weekly full backup, daily differential backup, hourly every 1 hour, T log backup. So let us say with this backup strategy, right? This is the backup strategy I have. So every day, 1 a.m. I have a backup schedule. So this is how I need to backup my database. So depending upon the criticality of the database, so this schedule has been decided: weekly full backup and daily differential backup. Every 1 hour, as a DBA, I need to take the backup. So later in the future classes, we will see how to automate all these DBA activities, backing maintenance activities by using scheduling the jobs. So first I have taken a database full backup. Fine. So the active content has been, the entire database has been backed up. So Monday what happened? The changes that happened after the database has been backed up. Then Tuesday, the changes that happened from previous full backup, that is Monday, Tuesday's changes has been backed up in the differential backup. So whereas Wednesday, similar from the previous full backup, all the changes has been backed up. Fine. So I am every day I am taking backup of my database in the based on my backup strategy. Here this is again a full backup. So full backup, I am taking a full backup. Right. Again a differential backup. Same whole story. So this indicates the changes that are happening from my full backup. Correct. This is how every day I am taking my differential backup, and in between, in a day, in between Sunday to Monday, I will be having hourly full backup. That means I need to take 24 T-log backups. Okay, fine. Now this is the backup strategy that I'm following. In between, if I am not in the shift, okay, so without my notice, a request came from application team or customer saying that in Wednesday he want a copy of the database backup. In Wednesday, he sent a request asking for database full backup. So what one of the DBA did is he initiated a full backup. Okay, full backup, what it will happen, he will take a full backup here, right? He has taken a full backup and he has shared with the customer. He has taken now. So based on my schedule, I need to take my differential backup on Thursday. If I try to take the differential backup on Thursday, what data it will back up? It will not back up. Ideally, it should back up from the from Monday to Wednesday, correct? So, but in this case, what is happening? There was a ad hoc backup has been taken, right? Here, ad hoc backup was taken. So, because of that, here rather than backing up the complete data, what it will do? It will it will just back up this content. See, based on the differential backup definition, it backs up the changes that happen after the previous full backup. Here there was a ad hoc database backup. On Tuesday, what will happen? Again, the changes that are happening from full backup. So here, if you see, if I want to do a database restore, here there is a sequence mismatch. This data, it is increasing like this, but here unexpectedly there was a full backup. With this full backup, the LSN numbers got changed. Okay, the DCM values, the differential change parity has been reset, so that only the changes that happen after latest full backup. The latest full backup, not Sunday, that is ad hoc backup happened on Wednesday. That's why my differential backup only backed up only these changes. So the next day, what will happen? So if you see here, the next day, right? This is this variation. So this one, because of the ad hoc backup that we have taken. Ideally, I should have all the content from Monday to Saturday. Since I have taken ad hoc backup, my backup in the data in my differential backup changed. Let us say here on Saturday, the database is crashed. If you want to restore, what all are you need to restore? So ideally, you need to have a latest full backup. So when was the latest full backup? From my records, it says Sunday was my latest full backup. So this was the ad hoc. So I am not aware. Someone has taken based on the request. So based on my knowledge, Sunday was the latest full backup. Sunday full backup. And then latest differential backup. What is the latest differential backup? The differential backup was on Saturday. So if I apply this Sunday full backup and latest differential backup, can I able to get complete data in the database? No, because here if you see here, this data, these changes I am missing. What happened? Since there was a ad hoc backup has been taken place here, so that it backs up the content from the previous full backup. So the previous full backup happened here. So that this differential change parity has been reset. This has been the backup in the differential backup has been changed. So to avoid this kind of issues, copy only backup has been introduced. While taking the backup, if you use the keyword copy only, so if you take the database backup in a copy only backup, it will not interrupt the regular sequence for the restoration. That means even though if you take the differential full backup on Wednesday on ad hoc basis, your differential strategy will not affect. Your differential backup will continue to backup from your previous full backup. That means like this. Got it? If you take a normal backup, what will happen? It will change the sequence for the restoration. If you take the same database full backup with the copy only option, it will backs up the database. It will take the complete database full backup, but it will not interrupt the sequence for your restoration. That means the differential change bitmap will not get affected. It will not get reflect. This is a ad hoc one. Simply it will back up the data and it will we will give to the customer. But this sequence, this schedule, it will not get interrupt. With that copy only, will with at the end backup database name to disk, backup database name disk. This is the syntax. Everything is similar to full backup. The only difference is it will not interrupt the sequence of the restoration. See, if you see the syntax, backup database name to the disk, and then file of your backup file, name of your backup file. So if you don't specify any, you have to specify option, right? If you don't specify, by default it will take full backup. So at the end with copy underscore only. If you specify copy underscore only, it will take copy only backup. Database name is wrong. It specifies. So one good thing is in SQL Server, the error messages are very user friendly. See, similar to your full backup, it has backed up the database files, content from the database files, and the active portion of your transaction log file. Just try to understand here the difference between full backup and copy only backup. This is nothing but a full backup, but only option is it is not going to interrupt our regular sequence. So the other option is backup compression. So normally we might hear about WinRAR and GIF. So what it will do? It will compress the existing files and it will decrease the file size from the actual size. Similarly, from SQL Server 2008, Microsoft has introduced the algorithm to compress the database backup so that the size backup file size on the disk will come down, and also the time taken to backup the database also will reduce. So this to make use of the backup compression, the SQL Server version should be SQL Server 2008. So and also you cannot use this backup compression with older versions, and the compression backup should be used to restore on a SQL Server 2008. That means if you take a compressed backup and you can, if you try to restore any other version of the database, it will not work. So only with the keyword with compression. Compression is an instance level operation. If you see here, so while taking the database full backup, we discussed here in the options. Set database compression. Use the default server level setting. If you want to use it, you can specify while taking the backup. If you don't specify, by default, it will take the SQL Server instance level configuration setting. So here what is set the database compression. Use the default server setting. So where the server settings will be, it will be in a SQL Server instance. Right click on a instance, properties, advanced. Here it is one of the option. Okay, so how can you check that? By using sp underscore configure. By using system store procedure sp underscore configure. In the sp underscore configure, if you see backup compression default, backup compression default value is set to 0. Minimum value is 0, maximum value is 1. Configure value 0, run value is 0. That means currently my SQL Server instance doesn't have compression is enabled. If I want to make use of it, I have to manually specify the option. Okay. So what we will do, we will take full backup without compression and with compression. We will see the difference. So we should see the difference in file size and time taken to complete the database backup. And click the entire content. So if I use here with the copy only, it will not interrupt my restoration sequence. Copy. Okay. Next, I am copying the same syntax. And also I need to specify. If I don't specify, by default it will take full backup. First syntax, backup database name, to disk, the location, okay, and the file name, backup file name, okay, .bak, and then what I specified here, I specified option called compression. I specified a option called compression. In the second syntax, I copied the same syntax, I use a different file name, okay. This here I haven't specified backup compression. In both the cases I'm taking copy only backup. So what will happen, it will not interrupt the restoration sequence. So by default what it will do, it will take a full backup. If you want to take the differential backup, I have to specify comma differential. Okay, so I'm taking the full backup. Let us execute both. If I run both at a time, processed 664 pages for the database name, data file, and then coming to here, processed one page from the transaction log file. So the active portion from the transaction log file has been corresponding pages has been backed up. Okay, this is for first. So what total how many pages has been backed up? 665 pages. For the second also, total 664 from the database files, one page based on the records from transaction log file. Backup database successfully processed 665 pages. If you see here, there is a variation in the completion time, correct? The first one is 0.227. So first one is with the option compression. The second is without compression. So you can able to easily identify the backup speed and time taken to complete, right? So there is a difference in without compression and with compression. Now we will see the file sizes from the physical location. Refresh. Compression, without compression. So the compression backup size is 1.1 MB, without compression is 5.37 MB. Okay, did you notice if you use the database while taking the backup, if you use the compression option, so the backup size will be reduced. Similarly, the completion time taken to complete the database backup also will come down. This compression is applicable for all types of backups. So this is introduced from SQL Server 2008. So if you want to make use of this option, either you have to use the option while taking the backup or enable in a instance level, so that if you don't specify also, by default it will back up the content. So at the current moment, here sp underscore configure my instance doesn't have that option is enabled backup compression. If I enable by default, if I don't specify the keyword compression, by default it will take compression backup only. In GUI, while taking the backup, you specify the option backup the database. In options, here compression, select the list box. Compression backup, do not compress backup. So by default, use the default server setting. Either apart from that, you can select compression backup or do not compression backup. Full backup backs up the content complete database. Differential backs up the changes that happen from previous full backup. Transactional log backup, it backup based on the active portion of the transaction log will be get backed up. After the backup, the transaction log file will be truncated. That means it will be marked for reuse. So these are the database backup types that are available. So with this backup types. Along with this, you can have a option to take backup of file or file group, that is called file or file group backup. Okay, so with this backup methods, you can use the option compression, copy only backup is nothing but a database full backup. It will not interrupt the sequence for your regular restoration. Okay. Okay, so one more, in while taking the backup, you can backup the data into one or more files. So what that mean? That means here while taking the backup, I set the destination disk to one location. Correct? Let us say my database is Hughes 500 GB. Can you please mute? So C drive is having 100 GB, D drive is having 200 GB, E 200, F is 100, G is 100 GB. My database is size is 500 GB. If I want to back up my database using compression or copy only, whatever option, if I want to take a database full backup, how can I take it? So if I take a database 500 GB database, the backup file size is around 400. If I use a compression backup on an average, let us say, we cannot say what would be the exact backup size. Let us say it will be equal or less than of current database size. So current my database size is 500 GB. I am guessing my backup file would require around 400 GB, 400 plus GB. So now none of the disk is have 400 GB free space to accommodate my backup file. In that case, what I can do? Is there any option that I can do? Sirisha, any guess from your end?
No.
Okay. Yeah, in SQL Server we have one option that is called split the backup files. By using split backup, you can backup the database into one or more backup files. That means I can keep one file here. So by using split backup, a backup database backup can be shared across multiple locations, multiple drives, and multiple files. So if I take a shared backup, that is split backup, what will happen? My 400 plus GB file size will be split across 4 files. If I use D drive, E drive, F drive, G drive for my database backup, so each drive will be shared with my full backup. That means each drive 400 divided by 4. Let us say my backup size is 430. So 430 divided by 4 drives. Each file contains 107. So here my only 100 GB is there. Okay. Mm, again it will fail. Let us say if it is my backup size is 430, I cannot split it because each file required 107. 107, right? 107 GB is required. So still I need to have So in that case, what we can do, C drive is a OS drive. So what are other option? It will be equally divided between files. So if I add two more files, so how it will be divided by 430 divided by 5 or 6, how it will be 71. Okay, what I will do, 1.bak comma 2.bak 3.bak comma 4.bak 5.bak 6.bak. So I divided the database into 6 backup files. So that means, let us say if my backup size is 430 GB, 430 divided by 6, that means each file will have 71 GB. Here 71, 71, 142 GB here, here 142 GB here, here 71 GB here, 71 GB. So I can able to keep my database backup like this. So the what I did, I split the backup into multiple files. Okay, so that the database can be backed up in multiple files. So whenever I use the split backup, what will happen, that size will be equally distributed between one or more files. So we will see how we can achieve that. This is syntax is similar to our full backup. So only difference is here we will specify more than one file. Adventure database 1 file 1.bak comma disk is equal to, so since we don't have multiple drives, what we will do, I'll keep in another folder. See here the syntax. So backup database name to disk, I specified file name comma second file comma third file. So what is happening, this database backup will be splitted across 3 locations and 3 files, right? And the file sizes will be equal, but the first file will contain little more size because it keeps track of other files information. So my first file, it contains information of other their uh, other files information. That's the reason first file will contain little more size and rest of the files will be equally in size. So the syntax would be similar. Apart from that, we'll be specifying only multiple file locations as specified by comma, and we can use still this split backup can be used for compression with copy only backup. So first I am taking without compression. See here, I am executing it. Database backup is completed. Okay, let us go on see the location. Total the backup file 1, its size of 1.877 KB. File 2, file 3, 1.812. So as I said, first would be little more size and rest are all equally divided. This is called split backup. So whenever we don't have much room in the disk to have the database backup, we can split in between multiple files to accommodate the database backup. Okay, so if you see here, this media, how many files this media have? 3 files. This backup set have 3 files. So if you still remember, back the table, the records will be saved in our system table called MSDB backup set, right? Backup set. Select star from MSDB dot backup set. If you read this data, so we'll see the latest one. So we can use where class to filter the records. Backup set ID, backup set unique identifier. Okay, family number, how many files are there for the media, backup media? If you see here, it's depend upon the number of files that we specify in our backup. So in this example, I have specified 3 backup files. That means my backup set is having 3 media files. So in previous examples, I used only one file. That's why backup media size is only 1. Here it will log how many files. If I want to restore, or else if I want to make use of same backup set, I have to specify 3 files. If I use more than or less than the current value family size, it will not accept. This backup set contains how many files? 3 files. That means if I want to make use of this backup set 16, okay, with append or overwrite, it should I should keep maintain 3 backup media, that is 3 backup files. Clear? Next. So what we will do now, we will do the same operation using GUI. Go to task, backup, okay, select the database name, and you can split the database backup for full differential transaction. This split backup can be applicable to any of the backup type. Okay, so I'm giving a split db backup. So only difference between full backup and difference full backup with the split is, in full backup previously we were specifying only one file. Now we are specifying more than one file to back it up. That's all. So that what will happen, the same database backup will be equally distributed among one or more files. So here you will add more than one file. Split one dot bak, done. Again add split two dot bak. Two files added. I added one more file. Split three dot. I just has given a backup file name like a split one, split two, split three. See, now my backup will backup media content, backups set content three media files, 1 2 3. So whenever my database full backup will be distributed between these media files. So this set have more than one file. So this options, rest of the options will be same. You can keep your backup compression on or off. Okay, so if I run this, backup completed, just go back in the file location and see. So backup file has been split into three files. If you see the backup size, the first file is little more than other two files, 597 KB, and other two as 532. Since the first file contains the information of other two backup files. So this backup set have a media family of three. Let us say now if I want to take the same backup one more time with the lesser media set, so I am commenting my older one. This is what I have taken previously, right? This syntax, if I run it, will it take or not? Here comma. So what I here in this example, I am trying to back up my adventure database to two files. Correct. Here I haven't specified any option. Overwrite my existing media set. As per the existing media set, what it says, this was having three media family, but currently I am specifying two. So what I did, I commented the third one. So in SQL Server, the comment is single line comment. This is dash dash is single line comment. If you want to go for a multi-line, hash star is the multi-line comment. Okay, so let me go ahead and run this. See, the media loaded into D program files is formatted to support three media families, but we have specified not specified all the files. Correct. So this is this error when I reduce the number of files. Now what I will do, I will give more than the value. So now what we are trying to understand here is the backup set, the backup media backup set is there, right? The set contains backup media family. The number what we specify, if you want to make use of that backup set one more time, you have to specify the same amount of number of media family. So that means if you use one file in the backup set, If you want to make use of the same backup set, every time you have to use only one file. So now what I did, I have specified 4 files. Same error. So it's not the matter of whether my backup files can accommodate the existing database backup. So it says the backup media set. See here, this error is something different. Operator cannot the file because of another process. Okay, because I have used 3 file names 3 I have given, so already used. So you cannot keep 2 times. That's the error message. See, this is the error message. This is designed to support 3 media files, but you have specified 4. That is why it is not allowing. So how I know? Because in the backup set, if I see my backup set, it already when I take previously, it's clearly recorded like it should have 3. Okay, so now if I want to use the same backup set, this is the backup set. If I want to use the backup set ID, I have an option to override the existing one. So if I use option with override with format, with init or with the format, let me quickly check. If I use the existing backup set, the backup has been completed. So these are the different types in the backup set. So we will recap that today's session, and we will continue in tomorrow's class. So if you have any questions, we will discuss in tomorrow first session. Okay?
Hello?
Yeah. Yes, Risha.
Hello?
Yes, Risha.
No, Naga.
Yeah, Naga. Tell me, Naga.
Yesterday class we didn't get it. Today I didn't get a chance to attend the full class. I didn't hear you properly. Can you please tell the Dharma to send the recorded class yearly so that I can look it into it?
Sure,
So
sure.
tomorrow class I am going to get it.
Yeah, sure. I'll inform.
Yeah, yesterday class I think nobody is going to get that recorded class.
Yeah, I think yesterday he didn't send. I'll check with him, and I'll ask him to share yesterday's and today's session.
Yeah, can you please tell him to send little bit early so that
Sure, sure,
I
Naga.
can look.
Sure, definitely I'll inform you.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you.
much.
Bye. Good night.